Welcome, everybody, to the Wonder Boldly podcast. I'm Christine Santos. I am so passionate about you going after what it is that you want. I want to encourage and motivate you to know that you too can live the life that you desire. Thank you so much for listening. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Wonder Boldly. Today, I have with me Erin Sisko, a former finance corporate professional turned unlikely business-obsessed serial entrepreneur. We love our entrepreneurs here. Erin is the CEO of the Elleiance Network and the two sister brands Capital Elle Business Impact Award and I Am a 10, and I can't wait to dive into this with Erin. Erin is on a mission to support women raise critical capital, connections, and collaborations, building businesses and lives that create immense impact and income. And I love that part of your story, Erin, because I don't like to shy away from that. So Erin, thank you so much for being here on Wonder Boldly. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So why don't we start with your former corporate background and tell us a little bit about that journey, starting with how you decided to go into finance, talking about money.
Okay. So yes, I was on a path that was very much designed for me. I was okay with that because I didn't know any different, and I was a very good girl who followed all of the rules and did exactly what I was told all the time. And that has created a lot of people pleasing and a lot of undoing as I, you know, evolve into womanhood. But yes, I was told that you graduate with honors and you go to post-secondary and you get a degree, and then you go out and you find yourself the best job that you can. And if it has a pension and benefits attached to it, then bonus marks for you. So I was on my way and I was ticking boxes left and right as I went along. And what happened is I graduated high school with honors and I went to post-secondary and I got a business marketing diploma. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. I thought business and marketing because it seemed kind of vague and that it would maybe open different types of doors that I didn't even know about. So that's what I decided to do. And when I went job hunting after getting my education, I had a stark awakening that there are no jobs. 50 plus different organizations over a 6-month period. And in the meantime, was waitressing. And then randomly out of the blue, I get hired on as a personal banking officer at Scotiabank. At this point, to be honest, I was desperate and it was kind of laughable because math and anything to do with numbers, I was terrible at. Like my brain does not work in a math sense, but it was a full-time job and I was all in and ready to go. So that was my first step into corporate when I was about 22 years old. And I worked at Scotiabank for 4 years, like I said, on the personal side of banking. And then I left and I went back to school and upgraded my education in business further. When I got completed there, I eventually landed a job that I was really excited about, which was at the Business Development Bank of Canada. It was a stretch because I was now on the commercial banking side, not the personal banking side. And I had to understand really well income statements and balance sheets to be able to make decisions. And I had never looked at one of those before. So again, this seemed like a big stroke of luck. And now it's also a government crown corporation, and I have a really good pension and benefits. So I'm feeling like my parents are proud. My parents are very proud. I'm doing the things.
Excellent.
So Yeah, so that got me in with entrepreneurs. So now I'm doing financing and advisory services for Canadian small and medium-sized businesses that are growing. And this was my first ever experience with anything to do with entrepreneurship or small business. I had never been exposed to this as a career path prior to this part of my life. And I was slowly realizing that I am mildly obsessed with these people because they are the most interesting, creative, bold. I was just fascinated, like listening to them and their stories, like what you're doing on this podcast was literally lighting my soul on fire. I was like, who are these people? And I need to be around them at all times because I'm so inspired and yeah, they just awakened something in me that I didn't know was there. So being a support person for entrepreneurs very quickly became my identity. And I knew right then and there that I had found what I was supposed to be doing for the rest of my life. Now, I thought that it was as a banker at the BDC, but after 8 or 9 years, 10 years, there was a little bit of a different plan for me. And, you know, things took a turn, but that was my corporate journey. And how I got started in finance was everything has been completely by accident and not by design for me, to be honest, which has been beautiful and challenging all at the same time. Are considering that and aren't strong with numbers. It's like three formulas that are very basic. And once you nail those, you're good to go. So I was able to actually become quite a strong banker and in that those boundaries I was more than capable with the numbers. But if you would have told me years ago that I was going to be a banker crunching numbers, analyzing income statements and balance sheets, I would have laughed right in your face because there was no way I was doing that.
That is such a thrilling and exciting story on so many levels. So, first, I just want to relate to one aspect that you mentioned there, and that is myself. I was in corporate, started in finance, but then moved over to medical software. Anyways, for 30 years. And when I found entrepreneurship, not my own business that I have now, but looking outside of corporate, I started uncovering all of these entrepreneurs and I was blown away and so inspired. I remember coming home to my husband and saying, do you know there's like this whole other world out there
Yeah.
that is not 9 to 5 in an office? Like, you know it, but then to like sort of
Mhm.
see it and like you said, so creative and so bold. And I'm just like you are, I'm a rule follower. When I first joined the entrepreneurship world, I'm like, okay, I can do anything. Give me the formula and I'll do it and I'll be hugely successful. Well, as you and I both know, that's not how it works. But I just love that because I can so relate to that. And it's an exciting world of entrepreneurship, the people, all the things. And the other aspect of your story that I really loved was how you said that you went back. So you were in high school, you did all the things, and then you got your after high school education, and then you got into this position by chance at a bank, and then you left that to go back to school. And I feel like I need to know more there. What happened there that you're like, I'm going to go back to school?
So that was always in the back of my mind. When I got my business marketing diploma, it was at a college. And the reason why I chose that college is because it had a partnership or some sort of relationship with the university in my city that I could go and fast track my way to a degree with these college, like they would accept them all one for one, and that's not always the case. So it was always kind of part of the plan, but I wanted to get some work experience and save some money. So I ended up working at the bank for 4 years before I went back. And yeah, I never really think about that experience all that much, but it was interesting because now I'm quite a bit older than my peers that I'm in class with. And I think because of that, and I paid for it, and now I have 4 years of corporate under my belt, I got a lot out of it. And I think it also was just one more nugget in my big story that showed me that I can trust myself, that I can do things
Mm.
that are different. Looking back at some pivotal points, which probably contributed to me having enough confidence to one day say goodbye to the whole plan that was devised for me and completely veer off on a different plan that nobody really understood. Most people in my life actually still don't really know what I do. I feel like they're just like, what is this? You know? I feel that way sometimes. When I think about entrepreneurship, it's the depth of possibility and potential that comes with it that is so exciting, but it's nothing that you can touch, feel, or see. It's like a feeling, and that's it. And I think that's why we're such a radical crew, is because we feel something different in our bellies or in our hearts or in our soul, or however you want to define your intuition and your inner knowing. We are brave enough to follow those breadcrumbs when I feel like 80% or more of the population is just quieting that voice, and we're listening for it and taking action on it. And that's cool.
Yeah, I always say that entrepreneurship is the crash course in personal development. I love the way you said that. Brave, listening to our intuition, following the breadcrumbs. Hopefully, we're fortunate enough that we have people who support us, even if they don't really get it. I like how you said brave and bold. Like that's the reason for the name of the podcast, Wonder Boldly. It's okay, we're wondering, is this possible? Wondering what could be, and then boldly meaning take action, right?
Yeah.
And you always hear the expression fail forward. And I guess until you do it, you don't know it, but it's so true. Like you just have to keep going. I'm like, okay, I can do this. Give me the formula. It's tangible. I'll hold it in my hand. I'll go
Yeah.
down the checklist and I'll do it all. And shazam, I'll be a successful entrepreneur. That's nothing what it's like.
There's no
So,
formula.
no formula.
I know.
So I love how you put that. So thank you for sharing that. Okay. So the other point in the story that will lead us into your business now that I want to hit is, so then you went back to school and then you went into finance on the commercial side. And tell us a little bit about that and then why you decided to go into starting your own business, becoming an entrepreneur.
So this was probably one of the most impactful pieces of my story because it got me in front of entrepreneurs all day. As their lender, I had to understand their business very deeply. I was right in there watching the operations, understanding what's coming in, what's going out, how they earn revenue, what are the expenses, what are the cost of goods. I had to write a very detailed case as to why the bank should loan this particular company money. And in order for me to do that, I had to understand what they were up to and how it all worked. So I spent lots of time with the same business when I was working with them. I would hang out with an entrepreneur for 3 months almost every day until
Okay.
I could get the project completed for them. I would get really close and in there and get them the money, get them the advice, get them the services they need, and then move on and let them do the implementation and the work. And I move on to the next client. Like I said, this was my first taste of what this world was like. It blew my mind right open that there was this other world out there that I did not know about until this time. Also, another pivotal point in my story is while I was at the bank, I had two babies. I became a mom while I was there to my son in 2014 and my daughter in 2017. So that also blew my world wide open as well. And then what happened in 2019, I was back to work from my second baby, and I was starting to get curious. At this point, I'm a senior account manager, and I am almost exclusively only doing business with men. And that was the majority of my career, but especially as a senior lender. So I was like, why? This is very interesting to me because to me, business felt like the most level playing field of almost any career out there because it's so mental. It's not physical. Like we're not talking
Mm.
about firemen or
Mhm.
construction workers or you know what I mean, where being physically stronger works to your advantage. This is entrepreneurship and it's your mind, it's not your body, and women are brilliant. So why is this that I'm only dealing with men, that I'm only loaning men millions of dollars and not women? The odd husband and wife team, but that's it. So as I'm leaning into this curiosity of my own, the bank at the same time is launching a program and they want to do more to support women entrepreneurs. And they ask
Mm.
me if I will be the ambassador for women entrepreneurs for Eastern and Northern Ontario. So, of course, I say yes. So I'm like, of course, that's right up my alley. I'm going to figure this out. Like, where's the women? Why aren't they building businesses to the same size and degree as men are? So, I go off to work on that and I talk to as many women as I can get my hands on. And one of my questions was always, what do you feel is your biggest challenge in growing your business? And the answer was the exact same every single time. And it was making the right connections. And that also was surprising to me because I didn't know, but as a banker, I just felt like they were going to tell me it was access to capital. And then I was going to go to my boss and say, we need to make accessing capital easier for these women. But that's not what they said. So now, armed with this information, I was like, because I'm a good girl and I follow the rules, and I've now been told what the problem is, and I'm the ambassador for women entrepreneurs. So I need to do something about this. And the bank didn't have a special program to help with making better connections. That wasn't our role in the marketplace. So it was a bit confusing for me, but I brainstormed on it for a while and then I went back to the women in my network and I said, if I start a group, would you come? And 10 of them said yes. And we met in October of 2019, drowning in imposter syndrome, showing up to that table of powerful women. That would be an understatement. But I showed up and I said, I have this agenda and I'm thinking we meet once a month and we talk about all things building and growing a business and we support one another and we share our knowledge and we see what happens. And they said yes and they shared like the most powerful stories that I'll never forget. And I left there that day and there was something in my gut that told me, I think I'm on to something here. That was incredible. And I did have one woman who, because we did introductions to start, and this woman, I had never met her before. She came as a guest to another woman who I did know. And she was in the later stages of entrepreneurship. She was actually in the process of transitioning her three businesses over to her sons. She had grown two car dealerships, Acura and Mitsubishi, and ATV off-roading like quads and side by sides and boats and those types of equipment. She says, thank you so much for inviting me to this table. I've never been invited to anything like this before in my life. And I was just like, that's not ringing any bells. I don't understand that. How have you never been invited to anything like that? Like, I don't understand that. So there was just a few things that were said that were just made me believe that maybe I was on to something here. Maybe these tables needed to exist more often.
Where
And
were these women from again? You said from your network. Is it from women that you had met at the bank?
so
Okay.
they were lived in my city. we met in person, and they were all growing medium-sized businesses.
And how did you connect with them in the first place?
So some of them were my clients at the bank. But at this point, I had been at the bank for 8 years. So I had built a pretty solid network of local entrepreneurs. And that was all I did was I just supported entrepreneurs. So I had a pretty healthy network myself. And then when I invited somebody, I would say, if you know of anybody else that needs to be at a table like this, please bring them with you. And it's all free. And I'm thinking it's under my role as the woman entrepreneur lady for the bank. We met once a month and we talked about business, and I set an agenda and we did the things. And shortly after, there's more people inquiring, and I launched a second group of 10 in February of 2020. And then COVID hit, we went virtual, and over COVID, 3 more groups launched.
Wow.
I just kept telling myself that I'm just going to take the next little tiny baby step. I'd be like, you're not doing anything scary, Erin. You're just taking the littlest, tiniest baby step. And that's it. You can take mini baby steps. Then the pivot moment was August of 2021. And the bank came to me and said, you need to shut down the Elleiance Network or you need to quit your job. And that was my time to shine.
So why did they say you needed to do that?
They said that, so at some point, the Elleiance Network got its name, and they said that it was a conflict of interest and a breach of the code of conduct. And they had a lot of legal stuff around it. And it was so fast and crazy. But there's so many things going on at the same time. And it's not just a one layer story, of course. Like now I have a network of 50 women that I show up and serve in groups of 10 every single month. And some of them been serving for years for free. And when this moment came, they were like how they showed up for me and put all of their support and belief behind me that I could do this was like that was one reason why I did it. I also remember thinking to myself, Erin, you show up 5 times a month for these women and you encourage them to go after their biggest, boldest dreams. And if you can't go after yours in this moment, if you say, okay, bank, I'll do what you tell me to do and I'll shut it down and I'll get back to work and head down and back in my lane. Good girl, Erin, right? That was pulling at me because that's my natural operating system. But I was just like, you're a fraud if you do that. This is your dream. And when I say every ounce of me was like, you need to give this a try, Erin. There's something here. So I did. I chose to leave the bank. And that's when everything changed from there. So I had a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old at home, and I had a life that fully relied on my quite healthy salary that the bank was paying me for being a senior in their organization for 10 years. And I left that. And I will say there's nothing like there was no option. It's, we're going to make this work because there's absolutely no option. And we're going to figure it out. And you just turn, and like within the next 10 minutes, this one's gone. And now you're all in over here and you're doing things, right? So I monetized the Elleiance Network into a membership-based organization. I did a lot of things in the first 2 years because I didn't know what I was doing. I was scared and there was no roadmap. There was no formula. Right. So I got my real estate license, and I do to this day only a little bit of commercial real estate, mainly focusing on business acquisition and succession planning. I took a 1-year long business coaching certification program through the Institute of Coaching Mastery. That was really impactful education for me. And I bought a bakery. I own a bakery.
Do you work at the bakery?
I don't work at the bakery. My business partner is the operator, and I am the business person behind the scenes that is responsible for 10xing our growth and selling it one day for a profit.
Oh my
So
God.
that's a fun job that I have. And like you said in my bio, where I spend most of my time still to this day, which is still my passion and what I am obsessed with doing every single day. And that is living inside the Elleiance Network. And I have been able to grow that coast to coast. And we're in 5 Canadian cities, and that's growing every month. The Capital L Business Impact Award brings me back a little bit to my finance roots because as much making the right connections is undeniably critical in building the best business that you can build, so is access to capital. They don't operate in silos, they operate together. So this year, the Capital L Business Impact Award, which is applications are opening on September 2nd, is a $50,000 prize package, is going to go to 3 Canadian women-owned businesses to keep them moving forward towards their biggest dreams. And you briefly mentioned also I Am a 10. It's the newest edition, and I Am a 10. The 10 is the acronym for the Elleiance Network. Massive message behind it, which it's a merchandise line and an accessory line. And when you grab your water bottle or put on your necklace or your blazer, and somewhere it says on there, I am a 10, it does just remind you that in this moment, you are completely perfect and more than worthy to go after all of your biggest dreams and desires. And in this moment, you're a 10 out of 10. In that last moment, you were a 10 out of 10. And in the next moment, you're a 10 out of 10. And that's just the end of the story. There's no question marks there. So it's your reminder that you are a 10 and you are perfect to go after whatever is on your heart.
Oh my gosh, this is incredible. I love this so much. And for the reasons of this, I'm going to start with I am a 10. Like, I think that is such a heartfelt message and a paying it forward. We've all been there where we have felt imposter syndrome, a 3 out of 10, knowing that in whatever world, whether you're in corporate entrepreneurship, in college, whatever,
Mm.
stepping into environments where you shrink and you feel that imposter syndrome or feel scared to be in that room, whatever that is. And I love how you articulated that I am a 10 in this moment, in the moment before, in the moment going forward, being reminded of that, to step into that room as your best self, just knowing that's who you are. I love that so much.
Thank you. Because it's a brand new baby. Like I
Ah,
shared before we went live here that I'm literally placing my first order. I just got the logo finalized around it. And so it is a bit scary, right? It's scary
yeah.
for me. This is a departure from what I've been building for the last 3 years. And I don't know where it's supposed to go. In my mind, it's supposed to go global. And like you said, this is actually the one thing I'm building that is not just for entrepreneurs. It is for everybody at every stage, like anybody who is stepping into a bigger version of themselves. We will always continue to evolve and grow and change and become more of who we were meant to be when we were put on this earth. But in this moment, it doesn't mean that you're any less than perfect. And it also doesn't mean that as you grow and change, that there's no room for that. You will be a 10 out of 10 when you're that version of yourself. And when things are hard and you need to take a step back and you need to reevaluate. I know that I have been told and I have felt like I'm less than a 10 more times than I care to recount in my life. And I think that this is sometimes we need that reminder, and it's only going to come from ourselves, right? Because we can't always count on everyone around us to tell us every day that we're a 10.
And where did you come up with this idea?
It just dawned on me one day that because the Elleiance Network, as you heard that story, it was a complete accident. Like there was no, I didn't go into it with a business plan and a big vision. It was literally following little tiny breadcrumbs. And I thought that I was going to be at the BDC until I retired. And this was just a complete accident, no plan around it at all. Probably after I had been out of my corporate job for about a year, all of a sudden it dawned on me where I'm like, the Elleiance Network, that acronym is 10. I'm like, that's cool. What can that be? I wish I had a cooler story to tell you, but I didn't
Oh,
even.
yeah. But I love that
One
story.
day it just felt, I'm just like 10, a 10 out of 10. It just came to me one day and it felt very aligned. And if, like I said, if we went back and chatted for days about our childhoods and all the things that we've been through, it just meant something to me because I've really felt less than way too much. And that was on me. I feel as an adult now, I take so much ownership over if I'm feeling less than, let me dig into that. Why, Erin? You know what I mean? But as a kid, it's so difficult. And I would love to see like college and university students buying into this because that's such an important time in their life and they're making big, bold decisions about their future. And I just feel like everyone needs to be reminded that they're a 10 right now. And it's just such a positive, lovely thing to do. If we can just subtly put it on somewhere subtle just for us, for our own hearts and minds, maybe it'll help us to say yes and continue to step into our best versions. And that's my hope for it.
That is so inspiring. Thank you so much for doing that. And I think your story is perfect in that one, there's always a through line, like you said. If we go back into our childhood and look through all the stories and all the things, there certainly is a through line there. Without doing any of that, sometimes ideas just come from what feels like thin air, and we boldly take action. And I think that's a really good message to say that for those listening, like there's no big necessarily aha moment. Oh, here's this great idea. It's going to work out so great. And it came because it means so much over here. And it doesn't need to be all that. It can be, you know what? I feel like it's an important message. It's an acronym for the Elleiance Network. Never thought of it before. And now let me think about that a little bit more. Wow, a 10 out of 10. That means something. And then just follow those breadcrumbs. So for those folks who are listening and thinking, what is my next step? What is my breadcrumb? What would be an action item that you would say that they could take to help them to start following those breadcrumbs?
I would say two things. So my story is I took very small, like a little bit of a step, and then a ton of the smallest steps that you could do. And then there's a bigger step because every now and then there's a little leap, and then it's like 100 or 1,000 minuscule steps while you settle into that thing that you just took a big step around. That's always how I feel like I need to do it is that I take a little bit of a bigger step and then I'm like, ooh. And then it's like littlest tiny steps while I like embody this new person that I've decided to step into, right? So learning to trust yourself, that has been the biggest lesson for me. That was something I struggled with. I don't think I had a voice. I listened to everyone else around me, and it got me places for sure. But now, when I listen to my inner knowing and my intuition and my heart and my soul, it has never led me somewhere that I 100% know I belong there. So tapping into that taking small steps. Like that didn't happen for me overnight either. The amount of podcasts I've listened to around how to hear your intuition and the newsletters that I subscribe to and the free courses I've taken and the YouTube videos, the people I follow on LinkedIn, like those are baby action steps that don't cost any money. And what they do is they start to rewire your brain. You're taking in the messages of the people that you admire and like pieces and parts of them. And you are slowly upgrading your mindset into becoming that person that you maybe can't even define to yourself right now. But that has always been like the second that I decide that I get curious first too. So be curious and say yes to things. And on your journey of curiosity, let those look for the people that are 5, 10, and 100 steps ahead of you. And all that you need to do is hit follow on LinkedIn and subscribe to their YouTube channel, subscribe to their podcast. And when you're walking your dog, find one that sounds interesting and listen to it. It's small steps, but all of these have transformed. Like I'm not kidding you, like these are the most important things that I've done for myself over time. And I continue to do them to this day when I'm like, I've got my list. It doesn't end because there's always more that I'm curious about and that I'm looking to understand and places that I'm looking to grow into and discover. And so it's now the practice that is just a part of my life now, but it wasn't always. It didn't, wasn't born this way. So for anyone listening that's like, I could never do that. There is no logical reason why I'm doing this. Like I said, there was nobody in my life. I live in Thunder Bay, Ontario, which is legitimately in the middle of nowhere in Ontario. Like I am an 8-hour drive from the next biggest city in any direction. So there's not a powerful network. There was not a lot of money. But since you've asked the question, I think that is probably the simplest but the most powerful thing I did is I just changed in everything I listen to and watch is around that, is around those messages. Imposter syndrome, you mentioned. What do I do when I start to feel that? What affirmations can I tell myself? What do I need to move my body? Reframing imposter syndrome. I've completely been able to reframe imposter syndrome for myself that I actually now, when I start to feel whatever that feeling might be, it reminds me that it's just because I'm doing big, cool. Like if I don't ever feel imposter syndrome, I'm not doing enough. I'm not moving in the right direction. So it's just a reminder that I'm doing something new and I'm on the right path. And instead of talking myself out of it, I pat myself on the back and say, good job. Good job, Erin.
That is the message. It is the small things. And what you just described is exactly a very common journey, mine as well, for people. I was in corporate, really doing really well, loved what I did, and I thought I would retire from there. And somewhere along the line, I stumbled upon somebody in the entrepreneur space and started listening to their podcast. Exactly what you said, started getting their emails, then finding somebody else. The reason this podcast exists, I didn't start this podcast with some big vision. I was really following and liking the teachings of Seth Godin, and he launched a podcasting class. And I'm like, okay, I can be around Seth Godin, learn more. And I was like, oh, podcasting, that sounds cool. I listened to a podcast and I just took the class, and then one small step after the next. And now I produce podcasts. That wasn't the intention when I started Wonder Boldly at all. And I think that is the big message. It's the small things. It's the reframing the mindset. It's the seeing things differently. Like we both said, when we found entrepreneurship, if you will, and dived into it, we were excited by it. And I think that's a telltale. Start looking around, seeing what's out there.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, I want to ask, how do people find out about the mastermind and the September 2nd launch for Canadian-owned businesses? Tell us a little bit about those two things, and we'll put everything in the show notes.
Okay, awesome. Right now for the Elleiance Network, it is just for Canadian women entrepreneurs right now, but I do have my sights set on the USA at some point, maybe in 2026. Right now, for our Canadian entrepreneur friends listening, it is on a wait list. Enrollment opens on June 2nd to June 9th. So it is a great time. If you put your name on the wait list, you immediately get invited to the remaining Elleiance events for the month of May for free, no charge, no obligation, just to check it out so that when enrollment happens, you know for sure that it's the right spot for you. So I would say to get on the wait list, the website is Elleiance, which is ELLEIANCE.ca. And on Instagram, the handle is LELL.IANCE. All the info is in the profile on Instagram as well. I would also suggest, if you are interested in staying up to date on all things about the Business Impact Award, if you get on the newsletter, you will be the first to know about all of that when it launches and what it's all about and how you can get involved and maybe be a winner.
One thing I wanted to ask about that is, do you fundraise for that? How does the funding for the award work?
So that's actually really cool because this year we have 29 partners who have come on board with the Capital L Business Impact Award. So that is how we fund it. Every single partner, except for 2, so 27 of the 29 partners are women-owned businesses that are contributing either cash or critical business services such as bookkeeping, marketing, mindset coaching, business coaching, strategy session, all the things that you need when you're building a business. So it really is a massive collaboration project of women supporting women, because I'll tell you right now, I know 100% of these women would also love to win, could use the prize themselves, but instead they've raised their hands and said, I'm going to get involved on the other end and be a part of the prize package, be a part of this contribution and giving back and doing something incredible for another woman who also deserves it. So I just love that part about it because it's such a collaborative project that we're doing.
Thank you, Erin, so much for doing this work. That's lovely, women supporting women. And thank you so much for coming on the Wonder Boldly show and sharing your story and all the things that you're doing with our listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you liked it, it would mean the world to me if you give it a 5-star review and recommend it to a friend. I so appreciate you listening, and I hope that these episodes motivate you and inspire you to go after your dreams. Until next time, continue to wonder boldly.